So some time ago I made a video telling you why the laser musket is stupid. Some of you guys said I was overly critical about this fake weapon in this fictional universe and I have way too much free time on my hands. Others seem to like the nitpicking. So this is going to be more of me looking at Fallout 4 things over critically. Now I was wondering what I was going to put under the magnifying glass for this episode. I thought about the baseball bat with the 2 saw blades strapped to it, or about how you can craft a tactical variable magnification scope out of 2 screws and a roll of duct tape, but that is low-hanging fruit. So instead today, I'll be talking about 2 pipe weapons, the bolt-action pipe gun and the plain old pipe gun. They're both simple and crude weapons, and they both don't make any goddamn sense. Now let me explain why. The 2 variants are pretty similar, but we'll start off here by taking a look at the bolt-action pipe gun. The firing mechanism on this thing seems like it's pretty simple. When you pull the trigger, or should I say bolt, this other bolt thingy is flung forward. It could be attached directly to the trigger, or there could be some kind of hammer mechanism. Unfortunately, I do not have X-ray vision, so it remains a bit of a mystery. In any case, the firing pin hits the primer on the round fires, you then rotate your bolt with a bolt attached to your bolt, pull the bolt back, sliding it over the firing pin, extracting the empty case, and chambering another round. It's pretty simple. But with my non-existent gun knowledge as a European, I can already notice some fatal flaws. First of all, the reloading doesn't really make any goddamn sense here. On the bolt-action variant of this weapon, there is no magazine the gun is being fed from. So you just kind of throw 5 rounds into the barrel and hope for the best. Now, I'm not a real scientist, but I don't think that'll work. And then the only thing that holds the bolt in place is this thin metal strip. So this thin, tiny little rusty metal strip has to withstand the full force of the round that's being fired. So more than likely, this thing would chip off and fly into your face. And if you're smart enough to upgrade this thing to fire 50 cal, you'll probably blow off your face. I don't think this gun was built with safety regulations in mind. Now we've got the pipe gun, which is exactly the same weapon, just with the bolt behind that thin little metal strip, turning it into a blowback gun. It does now have a magazine it's being fed from, but it still doesn't really result in a gun making a whole heck of a lot of sense. When the bolt moves back now, a round is somehow being fed from the magazine that is all the way below the bolt. And then the round somehow slides past the firing pin that is sort of in the way. And since I'm nitpicking now anyway, you still reload it like it's a bolt action variant by turning the bolt, even though pulling it straight back would also work. Then when you're firing, the bolt attached to the bolt sort of slams into the very end of your barrel, so this thing would also wear out pretty quickly. Lastly, there is just no way that this thing concocted from sheet metal, 200-year-old rotten wood, and a bucket of M6 bolts cycles quickly and reliably enough for automatic fire. So now that I got that off of my chest, we'll take a look at some of the pipe weapons' attachments. First up, the thin barrel. This thing, from what I can tell, functions as a counterbalance at the very end of the gun to reduce the muzzle climb just a tiny bit. So they came up with the idea of just welding 8 steel strips to the very end of the barrel, which is pretty brilliant. I honestly can't find anything that is wrong with this. Next up we get the Reflex Sight. Because red dots are a bit hard to come by these days, Wasteland entrepreneurs have designed a scope that can be zeroed with 2 screws. Again, pretty brilliant. It just kinda sucks that I have to find a Phillips head screwdriver every time I want to change my zeroing, but other than that, they really didn't screw up much on this one. And lastly, the recoil compensating stock. This thing is made out of 2 tubes that can slide over each other with a spring around the outside. The idea being that when you fire this weapon, the 2 tubes slide over each other and the spring pushes them back to their initial position. Now on paper, this seems like a fantastic idea, but I decided to run the math, and it's not looking good, Bethesda. It is not looking good. So there's this equation out there for calculating the spring constant of a spring when you know its dimensions and the material it's made out of. The spring constant K is equal to the shear modulus multiplied by the wire diameter to the power of 4 divided by 8 times the amount of coils times the spring diameter to the power of 3. So I was generous, and I assumed the spring was made out of some brand spanking new IC 1095 spring steel with a shear modulus of 79.3 megapascal. Then we can count roughly 8 coils. Now in order to determine the diameters, we need a unit of measurement. Fortunately, fingers are apparently an actual unit of measurement. The more you know. So we assume that the average US adult index finger breadth in the year 2077 is 3/4 of an inch, which is 3/4 of 2.54 centimeters in the real units. Then we can compare that to the spring, and we find that the wire diameter is about 19% of a finger, or about 3.7 millimeters. The outer diameter is about 1.5 fingers, or 2.83 centimeters. So if we plug in a math, we arrive at a spring constant of 10.27 newtons per meter, which is a pretty weak spring. Now with this spring being about 9.5 fingers long, it would have only taken one full soda can for this thing to catch fire and explode. Had I not mistaken a comma as a decimal separator on the webpage. It's actually 1,000 times stronger than I thought it was. So to make that 1,000 soda cans, and this thing will probably still not catch fire and explode, because metal doesn't really tend to do that. But the point is, the spring checks out, Bethesda. It checks out. So what we learned today is the importance of reading things carefully. But overall, these weapons are still pretty stupid, and they don't make a lot of sense. And I should really find more productive ways to waste my time. Anyways, if for some reason you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, and if there are more things you want me to overly critically look at, just for no good reason, be sure to post them in the comments below, and I will see you next time.